Hi, Martin here. Today I got a pretty big project. We're going to be putting a full-length exhaust system, including headers, on our 99 through 04 Jeep Grand Cherokee with a 4.7 liter. I got a Kolak 3-inch manual bent tailpipe, high-flow Magnaflow Cat. I've already installed a couple O2 bungs right here, a 70 series Flowmaster muffler, and then we got the Thorley headers right here, the Tri-Y headers. And then we're going to use these V-band clamps, and doing this for service only. Most of you guys will put the exhaust system in, probably weld it in, maybe just use some regular exhaust clamps. I'm going to try these out. These are you have to weld them on. And this is going to make the exhaust system very serviceable, and maybe I want to try out a different muffler later down the road, and I can just undo these real fast, toss in another muffler, and away we go. Alright, well, let's get started. This is going to be a big project. Alright, now this is not an easy thing to do. For one, you got to get to the top bolts on the exhaust manifold on this side, and you can barely see the exhaust manifold. I mean, it's right down there. So things got to come out of the way. Your transmission control unit here, we're probably going to have to pull some of this wiring out of the way. Most likely the battery and the tray might be helpful, and some things like that. So I'm going to start there. Of course, disconnect your battery. We're going to be working around the starter, and we don't want to arc anything from the hot side of the starter to the ground. So definitely disconnect your battery. May as well take it out of here. Alright, trying to get the battery tray out of here. Unfortunately, it's got to come out to make the job easier. You do have to lift up that the fuse block here. Looks like there's 3 bolts that held the tray in. And you do have a wire connection underneath the battery tray. That is a battery temperature sensor. I'm going to disconnect that. There we go. And you can see now, with the tray removed, you can really actually start to see the exhaust manifold. You can get to some of these bolts. And I'm still going to take the transmission control unit out here. And then there's 3 bolts holding this in here. Actually, we may be able to just take that, throw that right up there, up out of the way. We got several connectors here we're going to undo. Push the little red locking tab right there. Push this down and pull those apart. I think I'm going to go ahead and remove the reservoir too, just so I got a clearer shot of everything down here. Probably not really necessary, but I'm going to do it. It's just 2 bolts that hold it in anyway. Now you can see with all this stuff removed out of here, you can get right down in here, and we start removing that heat shield right there. And then we can get to the bolts that hold the exhaust manifold on. Okay, I got the 4 nuts that hold the heat shield off. And then you can just pry that thing out of there. Like I said, everything in here fits kind of tight. Oh yeah. Okay, now you can get to, or at least you can see the bolts down here now. That one there, there. Got 4 on the top, 4 on the bottom, not to mention the exhaust pipe and stuff like that. This is the right side of the engine here, and there's some of the bolts down here that you can see. 10mm for the most part. And then we're going to have to also break these off loose here. Hopefully those come out okay. And then go ahead and disconnect your connector for the your O2 sensors. One on each side. These bolts here on the driver's side are quite easy to see. Right there. They've been coming out so far so good. No problems. Okay, I'm removing the exhaust flange bolts here to the manifold. Prepare to have some long 3/8 extensions. And then you can clearly see the exhaust manifold bolts there at the bottom. 10 millimeter for the most part. I think the other one, there's one or two that are like half or 13 millimeter. Okay, I got all the flange bolts on the exhaust unbolted. This is, you know, pretty much rusted together and burned together, and I'm just going to cut this exhaust in half right here to drop these cats off and get this out of here. Alright, got that part out. Now with the exhaust pipe and the cats out of the way, this makes it easy to get to these bolts. Also, remove the starter. Will make this job a lot easier. And if you have an earlier starter, you'll also need to replace it to the newer style one to make the headers fit. And that also goes for the drive shaft as well. So now, and you can get to these other two bolts now a lot easier. Those are the only two I have left holding the exhaust manifold. Okay, the two bolts here on either side of the exhaust flange on the manifold are the hardest ones probably to get to. I'm using a 10 millimeter with a swivel head, the ratchet head on it. That helps a lot. And so far all the bolts have been coming out really not too bad at all. You know, my biggest fear was having a bolt snap off, but I haven't had any issue like that at all. They've been coming out pretty good. There's this one here, and there's another one right over here. Another one right over here on the other side of that one, just opposite of it. And that's my last two bolts. I'll have both exhaust manifolds out. Okay, we got the Y pipe with the two cats taken out, and then both exhaust manifolds are out. I'll be taking the O2 sensors off. This one here I replaced, you know, about 10,000 miles ago. I'll definitely be reusing that one. I might be changing all the other three out. We'll see. Alright, next step, you want to get these all these surfaces at your ports all nice and cleaned up. Take off any excess of the gasket, and then I just used a razor blade, and all I'm doing is just scraping flat like that, coming across. Then after you get all that heavy, stuff off of there and you get down to a metal surface, then I use a Scotch-Brite pad and just clean that up. And then the end result, here I got over here this side that I've cleaned up. And you see all those ports look really nice and ready to install on that side. Okay, well, I'll get this other side cleaned up and then we'll start putting headers back into it. Alright, I'm test fitting these headers. I kind of got them loosely bolted in there, and if you can see that right there, very close to, if not touching. Text message. And then there's one other spot right there by the oil pan. I think I'm just going to take the header back out, put a little dent there in the oil pan, I mean as far on that lip, on that flange there, just to knock it over. And then I'm going to grind away. I already did grind away a little bit metal there. You can see where it's shiny. I'm going to take away a little bit more and maybe knock a small dent into the header right there, which isn't going to really hurt it any at all. Just enough to clear that spot. I'm going to mark it with a Sharpie and put a small dent there, maybe. Okay, as you can see, I just knocked just a small little dent in here. That's not going to affect nothing. Just enough to clear that bell housing area, that bolt that I was touching. I've got the header loosely bolted in, just finger tight here, and you can see I got a decent amount of clearance here. I can put that little dent in there, right there. And then I also had to knock the oil pan over, just the lip of it right here. Yeah, right there, you can see it. And that gives it just enough clearance. There, okay? Well, here I am, probably an hour and a half later, and this header is still not in. The directions do tell you that you got to remove the motor mount on this side, and then support the engine, of course, and then you may have to lift the motor a little bit. I was hoping that wasn't true. It definitely is. The one thing they did not tell you to do is to remove this the tracking arm here. That goes right there. And I don't see how you'd ever get it in there if that was there. Of course you can reinstall it after you get the header in. So next step now is to support the motor with a jack, or probably put a piece of wood right in here, and take this motor mount out. So I've tried to squeeze it in there, and it is so close. Because you bring it up in here, and you can bring it back a little bit, but you just can't get it past that port right there to slide it up. So that's the next step. Okay, now I got the header in there. This was a job on this side. Now I'd suggest, they say remove the motor mount. You don't need to. What you can do, there's 4 bolts that hold the motor mount to the engine block. You can see 2 of them right here, and you got 2 on the top. You take those out, support the engine just like they're saying, with wood, and I got a jack here, and you start raising it up. And if you get like an inch raise out of the motor, and you're going to see a gap in here, maybe only like about ½ an inch gap here or at the top, and that'll give you sufficient enough room to slide the header in. One thing though, you may want to order yourself some new motor mounts if you have never changed them before. I noticed this one here actually does need to be replaced. I'm going to do it later. AutoZone wanted a little too much money, and I know I can get them cheaper on Amazon. Well, good morning. It's the following day. Worked on that header installation all day yesterday, and it's not a lot of fun. Driver's side, pretty much no problem, other than the one dent I had to throw into that pipe. Got to the passenger side, and that one's a lot of fun. You don't necessarily have to remove the transmission mount, the motor mount, but you do have to unfasten it from the engine and just lift the motor up to get the header in there. Then, after it says to finally tighten down the header and then reinstall the starter, well, that's a problem. Here's my starter. This is an 04 vehicle, so this starter is common with the 02 to 04s. And it tells you, if you go to the website, that you need to have a starter from the 02 to 04s. And I went down to AutoZone just to make sure, and sure enough, the 99 through 01 is a larger starter. They're like 3/8 to half an inch longer. They're bigger, rounder, the solenoid's huge. So if you're doing this to a 99 to 01, you definitely need the smaller starter to begin with. So you're going to have to get a newer starter. Then, I go to put this in there. It ain't going in. Not the way they're telling me. They're saying after the header is bolted down and put it in there. No. It's not happening. I'll show you a shot of that. What I think I'm going to have to try to do is loosen the header up. Not, unbolt it completely, but loosen it all up where I can move it and hopefully tweak this in there. Now, what I don't like about that means if this ever goes out, you got to loosen that header all back up again to get this out, get the starter out. So what I'm going to do also, if I get it in there, is do some thermal wrap to this thing and hopefully make the starter last. Well, let me show you a shot of that, and then not to mention they didn't design it around any kind of aftermarket transmission pan because the Y pipe hits big time. I'm going to end up having to cut that Y pipe and redesign one of the pipes that go into it. Right now I'm definitely questioning if it's worth it. But I'm so far into it, and then you spend this much for a header, you don't want to go back and put the stock exhaust manifolds back in, right? Well, I'll get you a shot of that starter, how it fits. Alright, here we go. Trying to put the starter in, and there's the problem. Right there. No matter how I angle this thing, see, it's close, but no cigar. It's not going in that hole. So close. So, okay, I did loosen the header up. I took the bolt spot halfway out, and by doing that, you can just squeeze this thing in here, and then once it's in there, you got like a 3/8 to half inch play between the header. So I'm definitely gonna do some wrap on it. That's still pretty close, and at least protect the back half of this. Do some kind of wrap back there. Otherwise that starter's going to burn up. Okay, I got some of that thermal wrap for starters, and just wrap the heck out of this thing. This is the end that I'm really worried about, because that's right where it is by a header pipe. But here we have it. So I'm ready to put the starter back in. Hopefully I don't have to worry about it. And we'll get that header bolted down tight and continue the installation. Okay, I got the starter installed and the header's tight, and you can see that there's not a lot of room there. Of course, this wrap adds some, length to it, but hopefully that helps protect that starter. You may also want to do some kind of wrap on that green wire, at least right there, because it's relatively close. I mean, there's an inch plus there. Got the O2 sensor installed. Now, on the wiring on that, the O2 sensor is now further away than it was originally, and the wiring here does not reach. I'm gonna have to probably go down to pick apart and cut off a chunk of harness and lengthen it. And also the one on the left side here, it does reach. I'm gonna fasten it up here somehow. You could have ran it behind the header like the original, but I think it's just a little warm back there. Now, in the Y pipe that they have, you can put the 2.0 sensors, the ones after the cat, in the Y pipe. Then naturally you're going to throw a cell light. Mine I'm putting after the cat. They'll be mounted in here. Of course I'll have to link the wiring for that as well. Here's a shot from above. Well, here we are, day 3. Naturally, if I didn't have this pan, I would have this project probably done. Because of the pan and how tight it hugged the right in here. I mean, it was laying. I couldn't even get the pipe honestly installed correctly, so I had to decide, you know, what are we gonna do here? So redesign. And because I'm keeping the pan, sure, I could put the stock pan back in and away we go, but no way, I'm not having it. So started with back here. Okay, right here I went ahead and cut the pipe and bent it over. Then tack welded it here to this one. So now, instead of it drifting off this way, I got it to go over here as far as it possibly can. Then I started hacking away. Here we go. I cut the pipe. Well, right here at the flange. I cut it here at the flange. And this part of the 90 right here was up against this flange. It came off of there that quick. So what it did before is it took off across here much quicker. So once I pulled this all the way over here like this, I had to, you know, make the pipe run this way more first, which is, I think, a better way to do this. And I didn't have to buy any material. I just used what was existing. In fact, this piece right here was on the what was left over on the collector, because I'm going to 3-inch. So I used it to fill in this piece, because as we pulled the pipe that way, naturally it grew some length. So I've got this all just tack welded together. Everything fits nice. Here's a shot of what it looks like from the back side here. I got, you know, sufficient clearance up in there. I also, on the mount right there, I oblonged the holes just so the this would come down just a little bit more. So I probably gained about 3/8 of an inch downward here. And I think that'll give me a good shot coming back. So on this part here where you see the big gap, I'm just going to take a piece of pipe, do like a crescent moon, you know, that's going to go over a majority of this, and weld a seam on both sides. I'll show you that here in a minute. And then you can see here now at least I got sufficient gap around the pan. There's a good 3/8 of an inch there. I mean, that's still kind of tight. And then it grows to like a 1/2 inch right there. So alright, what I've done is just take a piece of leftover from the collar that I had out here, the collector, and I'm just going to snap that over here like that, slide it into place, and I'm just going to weld down both sides around here, and then I should have this done. I got the rest of this welded up. Alright, here I am, day 4 on this install. When I put it up there, I mean, I got this thing built, it fits nice, and of course the O2 sensor bung. Now I'm not going to use this one, nor am I going to use this one, because I'm putting those on the Cat. But I do need one for the wideband air fuel ratio gauge. So the placement of this one, because I moved the pipe, causes it to hit the transmission line, and I don't want to sit there and try to tweak that transmission line right where it's at. It was very difficult to move. So I just got another O2 bung, welded it in right here, and this is a perfect location. It comes up underneath the transmission bell housing area there. And if you question the looks of these welds, I would too. Turns out I had stainless wire in there and didn't know it. And then I'm using the wrong gas for stainless wire anyway. So they just were not looking right. I'm wondering what the heck was wrong. And I happened to check and then realized. So right here is where I changed the wire. As you can see, that was a lot better looking weld. Alright, I'm going to get this installed. Neighbor cat coming to visit me. Okay, a couple words of advice. I would recommend getting one of these wrenches here. You can get a set of them at Harbor Freight relatively cheap. What makes this so important, makes it very easy to tighten this top bolt. Otherwise it's very hard to get a socket up there or a wrench. So here I can just sit here and tighten this right up. And that's this case on both sides. As you can see how easily that one just gets right up there. And now I can get on top on that bolt right there. That makes the job a lot easier. And then of course I did tack weld all the nuts on the back of this flange here, and then that eliminates you having to get a wrench on here, and you know, just one less tool and a whole lot easier to put on. I did that to both sides here. Okay. Well, I got the wide pipe bolted in and ready to start on the rest of this. So I'm going to get this piece of pipe put in. I'm going to build an offset coming over here And once it gets past this cross member, we're going to drop down just about an inch, maybe 3/4 of an inch or so of a drop. Because what I want is proper clearance for the catalytic converter and the O2 sensors that are on the back side of the cat. Now another thing you'll have to do, especially if you're moving the O2 sensors to the back of the cat like I am, you got to lengthen the wiring. Now it is actually pretty long, but even though you move it back, you still have to lengthen it quite a bit. I just went down to pick apart and got a chunk of harness, cut it right off, I believe this was an O2 or Jeep Grand Cherokee, but cut off as much as you possibly can. I mean, this one little chunk is only $3, so this I think is the way to go. And then just solder each wire in color for color, like I did here. And then I used heat shrink on there, and now I'm just going to cover it up with some of this split loom that you can get down at Harbor Freight for a couple bucks, and be ready to install this cat now. Okay, I bought this tailpipe. Got this at Performance Muffler here in Las Vegas. And the whole tailpipe was $40. It's mandrel bent, 3-inch. I mean, you can't even buy hardly one mandrel bent anything like a 30 degree for $40. And here I got multiple bends to build this offset that I need. So what I did, I cut this part off here, and what I do is I wrap blue tape around here and I put the sticky side out, and that gives me a nice straight line going around, and then I just mark it with a Sharpie, and then I cut it off. So what I'm going to do is cut this here, and I've already cut this one, and then I'm going to show you how I build my offset to, because you just can't buy just an offset. You know, all this is just bends, and what I needed to do is go one direction and then back straight across. But I'll get that cut, and then I'll show you what I'm up to. Alright, with the two halves cut, see, now I can bring them together, and then I got the offset that I'm looking for. Now I just got to put these, weld this together, and then naturally this is too long both directions, then I'll cut it to the proper length. Okay, I've got the piece of pipe here fabbed up. See, there's my offset right there. I got it tack welded together. I've had it up in there and had the cat on. This line here I've got just shows me where the cat comes to. What I'm going to do is shorten this up 1 more inch. Give me a little bit more room between the end of the cat and the muffler. Now I'm going to go ahead. I've got the V-band piece in here tacked on. And what I do is I assemble it, put the other half in here, and just snug it up. And I believe that helps when you're welding this up here. It keeps this band from warping. So I'm just going to go ahead and weld this up. I leave it on there until it cools down, and because I noticed when I welded this one, it turned out real nice. When I welded on my first one, I did not do that, and it did warp a little bit. So hopefully it still seals. I know this one will. And then I'm going to go ahead and weld this up solid now. Okay, got everything welded up as far as the this section of pipe to the cat right here. Okay, I tack welded it in place, you know, where I liked it up there, and then brought it back down, welded 100% all the way around. And now I got a small piece of pipe. I'm going to insert this here, and then put this V-band clamp right back on here, and then weld that all in. So that's what I'm going to do next. Okay, I put the tailpipe in here for now, and to make it all a little easier to get in here, I mean, if it's sitting on the ground, you can get it in. You don't have to actually raise the vehicle up, but I did disconnect the sway bar link in there and the shock at one end or the other and just move it out of the way, and you can get the tailpipe in there. Now I've just got to get the length for the muffler right there. And over here, I went ahead and welded on the V-band clamp, just tack welded it on for now. This is on the outlet side. I'm going to go ahead and clamp it in place, raise the muffler up in the location, and figure out what I need here at this end. Because I did not, I put the V-band clamp right here at the end, and I also put the V-band clamp at the very end of the tailpipe. I'll show you that. Right here. That means, you know, approximately 2 inches of this would have been inside the muffler tail section there. So basically I'm moving the muffler forward, and that is definitely decreasing the length of pipe that I'll need here at the cat end. And in fact, it's very, very close. Okay, I've temporarily hooked up the V-band clamp here and got the exhaust in here. Now I've removed the shock and the sway bar link. Now I've also already cut this exhaust and taken out like 7/8, nearly an inch right here, and put it back together, tack welded it. Because what I'm getting is a little clearance issues that just make me a little nervous. Around this heat shield, even after removing that, I'm somewhat tight. I mean, not bad. The one thing that concerned me the most, here we are underneath, tailpipe curves up, and right there. I just want that to be more like that. I think what I'm going to do is actually take this back out and remove another 1/2 inch. Because I don't think it's going to hurt anything, because you can see the clearance we got between the axle and the pipe. No problem. By removing that 1/2 inch, yes, you are moving it toward the axle, but again, we got more than enough room here. And there's the heat shield. And also, when I take this out of here, I think I'm just going to beat this heat shield back a little bit, which isn't going to hurt anything. As you can see, right up in here, you got all this room back here. So just beating it back, and the gas tank is actually down there. Okay, I went ahead and cut out another small section right out of here, welded it back, you know, tack welded it, put it in here, and now I feel like I got, you know, a sufficient amount of clearance right here, and it all feels pretty good back here by the heat shield. I'm still gonna bang this thing back next time I take this tailpipe out, and just to make sure. Now, with that in mind, this gives me this measurement here that we need to fill in. So all I'm going to do is take a measurement right from here and cut a small piece to put in there. Okay, I got the one side of the V-band clamp welded in with that little piece of pipe right in here, and slid it in, went ahead and bolted this down, and now I got the exhaust is just hanging here now, just like it should be, and I'm going to go ahead and weld this up, And then I'm going to take the tailpipe back out and weld up where I had cut and tack welded it back together. And we're almost done. Alright, installation's complete. I got good clearances. The only thing I'm going to probably change, what I didn't like, was this hanger. You can see it, you know, from out there. I don't like the U-bolts hanging down. If I take it for a drive, everything's good. I'm going to weld it right here in place, just down in here. Cut this clamp and get rid of the U-bolt altogether. Just using this hanger right here and welding it right there, and then you won't have none of this hanging down here. Okay, and make my clearance right there. Real happy with. Everything turned out good. One last thing I got to do for the wiring on the O2 sensors. I'm going to drill a small hole here in the heat shield and fasten these connectors right here, so they'll both be right in this part right here, away from the heat. Got that project all done. It was kind of a long project. You know, it literally took me 6 days to get this installed. And of course that was all because of the Y pipe not fitting properly because of the aftermarket transpan. Otherwise I'm things would have went a lot smoother. I'm very happy with the sound on this. Absolutely no drone whatsoever. Where I had with the Flowmaster Super 44. Much quieter interior cabin. You know, don't have the noise like I had before. And you still got a nice rumble out of this thing. And I've just took this thing on a trip. Went to Grand Canyon and Meteor Crater. So it was a good long trip. Probably put at least 10 to 12 hours on the Jeep and never threw one cell light. So the 202 sensors that I put in a single pipe works perfectly fine. You're not going to throw a cell light on that. Alright? Well, thanks for watching and please subscribe.